For 10 years, they had struggled. They had been but whelps when the great change came. They had once been proud, tall, high elves. But something had happened. They don't know what. Nobody had any indication as to what actually happened. All that they knew was that they had gone from being high elves twisted into something else. Now, they were on the run. The other elves had declared them monsters. Dark, twisted reflections of what they should be. They had been but children. And then, well, when you're declared an anathema, there isn't very much that you can do except run. To do what you can to protect yourself, your loved ones. They had tried so many times to try and find a way to live long enough to learn what happened and why. The other elvish races didn't much care. They had fled. Fled to a section of the world so tightly contested. Everybody had representation here. The dwarves, the elves. But beyond the elves, there were many who were willing to offer them aid. If not aid, then at least sympathy. Sympathy over a plight that was not their fault. But with so many of their fellows dead, only these 5 knew for certain that they continued to live. There might be others. They didn't know. All that they could do was try. And try they did. Here in this new land, these young but talented people were determined to give it a try, to see if they could survive. If only for another day. As most of the things that they had brought with them on their broken down cart were successfully brought back, these 5 tried their best to survive. They planted new crops. They made a pen for their deer. Ancient deer, not the typical sort. And thus they made plans. Things that they remembered from their youth. things that they felt they had to have in order to be, well, not happy, but content. They had been toughened by years and years of being on the run, of facing continued attacks, of the wrath of Bryn, the sun god. But they still kept hope. Ithel and Shelia found themselves drawn to each other. A young blooming love. So much to do. Their natural magics that made sense to them continued to swell and grow inside of them. And yet their unnatural magics that had come with the strange twisting continued to grow. Such was how they were continuing to live day in and day out, doing the best that they could. They recognized that the lynx was in the animal pen. Ithel set to work, knowing well that their brave, brave animals deserved protection. Their brave ranger had taken care of the animals, protecting them in his own right. Now they had work to do. A place to butcher animals, even if briefly, was set up. It would soon be replaced by a different butchery, but that would come in due time. Though it would hurt the timber shrooms, if placed too close, they put in a campfire. Ah, they'd been holding out. They had snuck away just enough wood to be able to help. While they did have meats that they had brought with them, those were limited in supply. They knew that they would not last. So with the second day coming to a close, and growing ever stronger in their skills, so annoying as that occasionally might be, they set to work. If Bryn had abandoned them, then they would turn to Bronin. The goddess of the earth. Perhaps she would offer them the security and respite that they so desperately needed. They needed more than just that. They needed to repopulate. And they needed knowledge. After all, they were but children, and despite all of they were but children when all of this had happened, and despite everything that had happened, how much they had learned, there was still a great deal that they had not. They decided to make their food stores last even longer. They would trap the creatures that lived within the sea. This great ocean that they were butted up against. They knew this area was dangerous. It was contested for a reason. The magic here was strong, powerful. But they hoped, beyond all hope, that they would be more secure here. was a cold one here. A dangerous beast. As everybody laid down to sleep, they were uneasy, but Ithel, who had been trained by some of the rangers who had escaped, Ithel had a plan. Perhaps not the best of plans. But it might just well keep them alive, before the Cold One turned its attention to them. The young love that had bloomed continued quickly, growing ever faster. Ithel moved to engage in his plan. Where was this Cold One? There. Ithel wounded the great beast. Before Tronka teleported in. Beating it over the head and killing it in one swift blow. Tronka was a shadow. While some might view that with disdain, the group appreciated his abilities and skills. Being able to teleport and strike from a distance, or appear in someone's shadow, or any more number of things, proved to be vital to the group. As their dear bread, replacing those that had been lost in the desperate flight from community to community, seeking safe haven from the elves. They might be twisted, but they deserved to live. The hall was coming together nicely. Soon it would be ready. But they needed to know how to do certain things first. There was an order to things. There was much to do and not much time to do it in. Shelia was, after all, pregnant. How quickly life flourishes. Ah, they felt this a good place to settle in. But with that comes questions. What do they call themselves? Well, for now, in a hope of appeasing the goddess Bronin, they would call themselves Bronin's children. It was a good name for now. They may come up with a different one later. The settlement, well, that was a harder one. They instead turned to the goddess Kala and called it Kala's blessing. Kala was the goddess of compassion, after all. They felt compelled to meditate around the ancient anima tree. They didn't truly understand it, not anymore. But the compulsion was strong. They replanted the tree closer. Wisdom on their part, they decided. For elves, they may still be but children. No matter how vastly skilled and knowledgeable. But they were still forced into the role of adulthood. They had the feeling that Sheila's child would be forced to do the same. Forced into adulthood well before her time. This place was different. The entire region was flooded with magical energies, making it contested. But almost all avoided this location due to it being the site of an ancient combat. A squirrel gone mad. Easily taken care of. Time was of the essence and they knew it. But being pregnant is tough on a person. Tranka found himself more able to tend, to heal those who were injured. Ithel found himself becoming more capable at combat. Sheila found her manipulation over time growing. And Andriel, well, the capabilities that she found herself becoming excellent in were harder to explain. They knew in order to build a great hall, they needed to create a stockpile, a place to put all of the stone that they were digging up. They had plenty of food now, but it would spoil, as things were. The decision was made to switch from simple meals to pemmican for the time being. While the food was not as good, it would serve them well. The party was held. They had a home. Still a relatively new home, but a home nonetheless. More lovers, Tranca and Camisa. They banded together, determined to stop running, to stay here forever. Unless Bryn herself came down from the other planes. They would stay here. Therefore, they felt it appropriate to finally confess their emotions to each other. Strange feelings of discomfort welled up from beyond. They knew not where this madness that pushed on their mind came from. But they also didn't care much. Does it matter right now, when they have so many more pressing things to attend to? Camisa joined Shelia in pregnancy. There was some concern about this, but nobody spoke it out loud. Their food would spoil soon. This was upsetting, but nothing that they could do. At least, not yet. They had a plan, after all. They struck coal. This would be handy soon. Moving the tree closer had advantages. They did not have to travel as far in order to meditate, to satisfy this compulsion within them. The research into rustic furniture complete, they turned their attention to lumber, for soon that would be so vital. But it did allow them to produce cribs for the children that were coming soon. Would need lumber in order to build more furniture, but precisely cutting those logs is more challenging than it sounded. Much of their food would not last much longer beyond morning. A little bit, but not much. Illness struck Ithel. Tronka was quick to jump to work, treating his friend. He did not worry much, but the sooner treated, the healthier that Ithel would be. A weaponsmith arrived. And while the weaponsmith came to visit them, unfortunately, mana became much more rare. Already there were up to 500. Pemmican. That would serve them well. There was still so much to do, though. They sold what they could. Trying their best to make sure that the future would be cared for. Even if, on occasion, they decide to eat the raw crab. It's unfortunate that the merchants decided that right next to where they had set their tents, would be the perfect place to trade. Their constant coming and going was mildly infuriating. They had already sold their weapons that they did not need. So instead they sold honey. It fetched quite the price. Looking among the rest of the wares being offered, nothing worthwhile. The trade caravan left a gift, a pelt. 3 pelts. Not that it did them much good at the moment. Itho was healing nicely. Not quickly enough. There was still so much to do, and not much time to do it in. Magic returned to normal. Thank goodness. More disaster. Illness was spreading, now malaria. The dangers of living next to the ocean, perhaps. Itho was doing good in the struggle against the flu. The malaria was moving more slowly, though. Everyone tried not to fret, but it was hard. Andriel refused to rest. They knew that they had to have somebody dedicated to Lentel, the worship of the goddess of morality. But with everything going on, now is not the time. Andriel's insistence on getting out of bed was not doing anyone any favors. Problematic. There's nothing to be done at the moment. Nothing but wait and hope. Tronco is moving as fast as his legs would carry him, trying desperately to ensure that all would be as healthy as possible. The good news, though, was that Ithil had overcome the flu. Now all that was left to deal with was the malaria. They were glad that they had cut the extra heal route. It was greatly needed. Plans were drawn up for a hoopstone ring. They were doing their best, but there was only so much that they could do to keep themselves from growing addle-minded. They had almost overcome their illnesses. They could feel it in their bones that they were getting better. There's still so much to do. Visitors arrived. So many visitors. The group were wary. What if they mentioned them to the elves? Traders were one thing. Traders wouldn't say anything. They had finished the research into lumber. Shelia considered talking to the visitors, but there was so much to do. She simply did not have the time. More medicine was helpful. No time to clean, barely any time to haul. Shelia was close to giving birth. At least now, the malaria had been beaten. Great fires raged from the flash storm that had happened. There's little that they could do about that. Destroy their wild heal root. But for now, things were good. We will close this page on their book, having overcome their first bit of adversity. Kala had smiled upon them and shown them the compassion that they needed in order to survive the illness. Perhaps she would smile upon them again. but we will continue that tale another time.